we examine the life of John Barfield, the way he moves, the way he acts, we decided to sit down to see exactly what made him tick. What made him, him.
Is that a camera?
Was it a camera? Who knows? We decided
Autumn,
to explore...
what are you doing?
I'm so sorry.
Get out of my house.
I'm leaving now.
Documentary Now.
Documentary Now is a mockumentary series. Each episode is a self-contained comedy that is designed to look and feel like a documentary. And this show brings up an interesting question about genre. Specifically, what is genre? How do you define it? And how can you blend multiple genres and make it interesting? Usually when people discuss the mockumentary, they talk about The Office. And while yes, it is a mockumentary series, it feels more like a comedy where everyone is aware they're being filmed. They don't exploit the fact that it's a documentary, and there are certain aspects of a documentary that you could exploit to make funny or comedic. Instead, they try to make the show an all-around sitcom, with recurring storylines and love interest and romance to keep you engaged to watch the next episode. It's not really focusing on being a documentary. But Documentary Now is quite the opposite. See, there is no recurring storyline. It's an anthology series. Every episode belongs to itself and not some bigger overarching plot. And they're dedicated to the idea that they want it to look as real as possible. If I showed you this clip, and I told you this was from the 1970s or late 1960s, I'm sure you would believe me. Which begs the question, is this a documentary series? What qualifies something to be a documentary? But before I get into that, I want to talk about the other element of this show's genre, the comedy. And this show is very, very funny. By making the show look as real as possible, it makes the situations that we see in the show 10 times more funny. For example, what about a band where two of the members have serious disdain for each other, but it is not touched upon or mentioned at all?
I wrote a lot of songs, and this was the only one we recorded. You know, at the time I was reading a lot of speculative fiction like William Gibson.
The song is almost done.
Or maybe there's a Broadway actress who is slowly becoming more and more annoyed with repeating vocal takes of the same song that ironically parallel her situation.
A marriage that I spoiled, I gotta go, I gotta go. I gotta go, I gotta go. Many times I mentioned I had an eye doctor appointment to get my eyes scraped.
Take 22.
I wanna go. I wanna go to the eye doctor now, as previously stated, you pompous beta males.
It's jokes like that that really make Documentary Now feel special and unique in its own way. It doesn't rely on the typical gags of a sitcom or comedy television show. It relies on things that only it could do, only it as a mockumentary series could pull off. But that brings us back to our original question. Is this a documentary series? Well, a lot of people will come to the consensus that to be a documentary, it has to document real-life events and be as true to reality as possible. But the problem is Documentary Now isn't real, it's complete fiction. So if you go by that standard, no, it's not a documentary. But if that's the case, how come it's allowed to say that it blends the genres of documentary and comedy? Why does it get to be called a mockumentary? But even then, calling this a documentary feels disingenuous. I mean, the show itself is disingenuous. Nothing about this is real, and in a way, I think that's what makes the mockumentary genre so special. You see, when you blend the genres of, say, something like action and fantasy, it's considered both. It's considered a fantasy and it's considered an action movie. But when you combine documentary and comedy, it's all of a sudden not a documentary, it's a comedy. But that's what makes this genre so special. It takes techniques and elements from one genre to further enhance the core genre that it's representing, comedy. Say if you were watching an action comedy, it would probably star someone like Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson. It would be funny, but it would contain moments of elevated excitement and fast-paced action. That in itself would allow it to earn the moniker of an action movie while also staying a comedy. But with mockumentaries, it's not allowed to keep the name of a documentary because it's not real. It stays a comedy while using the ideas and the feelings of a documentary. And Documentary Now does all of this perfectly with swagger and style. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and give it a watch.